Number 3 reason you're going to run out of money in retirement. You didn't plan for high healthcare costs. I guarantee you there's going to be the Fidelity study. I guarantee flipping to you. All right, I haven't read this, but it's the, okay, right here. I can already see the numbers here. All right. Whoa, Bobbies, come here. Not like the Fidelity study. All right, so you know you'll need to pay for healthcare in retirement, don't you? Well, don't you? But you might realize how high that expense will be. When I tell clients in their 40s that basic healthcare costs in retirement are currently more than $250,000, they fall out of their chairs, says this guy from Oxygen Financial here in Atlanta. Wow, that's a big yawn. And you got stinky breath. My breath stinks too. I got coffee breath. In fact, retirees can expect to spend even more than that. Fidelity Investments estimates that a 65-year-old couple retiring in 2019 would need $285,000 to cover medical expenses in retirement. Ah, we're all gonna die. What to do? When calculating how much you need to save for retirement, be sure to figure in healthcare costs, which could be drastically higher than what you're paying now. Really? Also, don't overlook small items like prescription co-pays for those who have diabetes and other healthcare. When you're in retirement, compare Medicare options to make sure you get the right plan for your need. It'd be worth spending more on the premium for a comprehensive Medicare Advantage plan or supplemental Medicare. We want a supplemental. That's my default. You want to get a supplemental, not an MA. That's Part C. We'd rather you stay with original Medicare and get the supplemental policy to get better coverage and reduce out-of-pocket costs. All right, so let's dive into this a little bit, shall we? I'm going to bring out my book, if I can find it. You Can Retire on Social Security. It just fell. All right, hold on. Let me find I just had my book. What did I do with it? I just was talking to somebody about it. One sec. This is from my book, You Can Retire on Social Security, and we're going to look at. One sec, Pablo. Wait, pause. 15. The Truth About Medical Costs in Retirement from your old buddy Josh in the book You Can Retire on Social Security. Every year, Fidelity releases its study on the cost of healthcare retirement. We just referenced that from 2019. $285,000. $285,000. You can't retire. Every single year. I remember using a study back when I started out as a broker in 2005. In the seminars I did, back then the costs were only around $180,000 or so. Now these costs are nearly double that due to inflation. And every single year, folks in the financial services industry use this study to scare people to saving more and working longer. Here's a recent tweet from Jonathan Clements. He used to write the Wall Street Journal. Hold on a second. Probably, oh boy. Oh, there we go. All right. Because Jonathan Clements did Tom the Advisor 1% fee, and then he went to work for a firm that charges a 1% fee. I thought that was kind of silly. So Jonathan Clements had tweeted this in 2019. By the way, I am not on Twitter. I will never be on Twitter. I just saw this somehow. A 65-year-old couple retiring in 2019 will spend an average of $285,000 in today's dollars on the retirement cost, estimates Fidelity. The figure doesn't even include long-term care expense. It's literally word for word what that article just said, basically, except for the long-term care. The irony of this tweet... hold on a second, Pablo. The irony of this tweet was written by the same guy who said Tom the Advisor's 1% fee, that he went to work for a firm that charged that. I thought that was kind of funny. All right, so if Clements and others' assertions are true about the cost of healthcare and retirement, is there a solution? Of course there is. Fidelity tells us to help fill the gap in saving for healthcare expenses, consider increasing contributions to your investments. Yeah, of course. Interesting that no one in the financial services industry mentions what is obvious about a very simple way to deal with these healthcare costs, which is stop paying investment fees. But hey, we'll leave that for another day. All right, so let's see right here. Hold on just a second. For the record, I take issue with the Fidelity study because of what they don't show. They don't mention that the average retired couple will need over $500,000 for food, or over $800,000 for housing, or over $300,000 for transportation. To use a lump sum today to estimate a future annual expense is just silly. oh my goodness, you're going to need $800,000 right now to cover your housing costs and retirement. How you better not retire. Well, how are you getting that $800,000? We're at net present value. We're amortizing your costs over a course of a certain amount of time, say 25 years of retirement. We're discounting it with a certain interest rate, and we're saying that's the amount of money you need to cover that cost. That's freaking stupid, man. Secondly, why focus solely on healthcare? After all, healthcare is not even close to the biggest expense that most retirees will face. Exactly. Why not say the average couple today needs $800,000 for housing costs at retirement? Well, because no one would take a study seriously that declared that the average couple will need over $500,000 for food over the course of their retirement. People know that they have to pay for food, and that food is a daily cost. So there isn't a fear of the unknown that exists with food like there is for healthcare. And that's the rub. These people are preying on the fears of the unknown. All right, so let's go back. I have a table in here from chapter 11. Healthcare is not even in the top 3 of all expenses for households over 55, not even the top 3. It's only when the household is above 75 years old does healthcare become a top 3 expense. And even then, healthcare is just a tad more expensive than transportation and food, and still way behind housing and closing and total cost. Housing is by far, nothing comes close. Housing is your biggest expense. Nothing comes close. When you're 75, basically it's housing way up here, healthcare, food, transportation, all within spitting distance. All right, so let's take a moment to identify how Fidelity came up with this $285,000 amount. All right, so here's what they say. I'm quoting directly from Fidelity. The average 65-year-old retiree today should expect to pay around $5,000 a year in healthcare premiums and healthcare and out-of-pocket expenses, which is exactly what I say, about $550 a month for Medicare, original Medicare, plus a supplemental and out-of-pocket expenses. That's $5,500 a month. That's $1,300 a month for $1,300 a month for a couple. What's that? $13,000, $14,000, $15,000 a year. What I'm saying. I have no problem with this finding. That's exactly what I use. But again, why focus on just this cost from the doom and gloom perspective? You need to eat 3 meals a day, do you not? How much does that cost? If each meal costs $5, you'll spend $5,400 a year on food. So why the fear mongering only on healthcare? Well, we just talked about that. All right. Another pet peeve of mine is that these fear mongering tactics is not only do they scare one to think healthcare costs will doom us, but to add salt to the wounds, here comes Jonathan Clements. Out-of-pocket medical costs devour 18% of retirees' income, according to Boston College, to quote Jonathan Clements again. Out-of-pocket medical costs devour 18% of the average retiree's income, according to a Boston College study. This excludes long-term care costs again. For 6% of the retirees, medical costs eat up more than half their income. All right. Notice the excludes long-term care costs. We hear this all the time from the purveyors of doom. Healthcare costs are expensive. You should be worried. And that doesn't include long-term care. They'll point us. They'll say to us like that. I also need to point out that Clements' tweet. He says 6% of retirees spend over half their money on medical bills. Yeah, it stinks to be in that 6%. You know who's not in that 6%? The 94% who don't. All right, so then I stopped there to talk about long-term care costs because long-term care costs is another pet peeve of mine. And I talk about in the chapter. Anyway, the idea that you need $285,000 now just to cover basic health costs that doesn't include long-term care, that's freaking stupid, man. I hate that crap. To use a lump sum today to cover an annual expense, it's so freaking dumb. It's just fear-mongering. It 100%. It's just when you hear this stuff say, I'm going this way. We'll see you guys later. All right, love to hear your thoughts. We'll see you.